Okay, we're recording.
Okay. This is a regular scheduled meeting of the Franklin Township Environmental Commission in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231. Adequate notice of this meeting has been posted. Roll call. Maria Santiago Valentin.
I'm here.
Okay, easy. Robin. Arnold Smith.
Here.
Okay, Stan.
Yaraj here.
Walter Andrews, I'm here. Paul Walensky.
Here.
Ted Chase.
Here.
Jessica Johnson.
Here.
And I believe that's everybody. If I missed anybody, I don't know why sometimes when I go down reading, I skip that. Nevertheless, so thank you. Why don't we go right down the agenda to the next, which would be the chair report. And just want to share with you real quickly that I did send an email to the Franklin Women's Club asking if I could talk with the group for about 10 to 15 minutes and share or give them some of the bags that the township has bought. They would have given out at Franklin Day, and tell them about the plastic bans that are coming up on the 22nd of May. And I haven't heard from them, but once I do hear, I expect them to. They are one of the largest nonprofits, I believe, in the township, nevertheless. And they partnered with us, must have been 3 or 4 years ago, when we needed a nonprofit to receive the LED bulbs that Paul's company, I call it Paul's company, would no longer just send out, but they wanted a nonprofit organization to receive them, and they agreed to, and they worked with us to distribute them to the public. So hopefully, I'll get a chance to talk to them, and I'll share with you, what I learned. And I don't know, is there a PowerPoint presentation available that talks about plastic saw?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well,
maybe from ANJAC. There might be something from ANJAC.
Okay, all right. We'll certainly use the material that has been prepared, that the handouts and the bags themselves.
Maybe you can use also the video that is available on YouTube, where Sean Latuaret is talking about it briefly, kind of high-level overview.
Fantastic. Okay, and the other thing I just want to share real quickly is, I don't know how many of you saw in the news media, Artist Group has, they're concerned that we are not taking climate change seriously enough, and because we can't visualize it, and especially in terms of sea rise. So they did a series of depictions of the Statue of Liberty after the sea has risen a certain number of feet, all the way up to, they didn't put it up to the crown, but they showed where it was just the island itself and maybe a couple feet around the base, and then a couple more stages. And they thought that would help people understand what we are facing, because they could visualize it, and they had an artist drawing that was quite dramatic. So if you get a chance to look at that, I invite you to do so.
Did they give a time frame on that, Walter?
Yeah, it was 25 years and beyond, I believe. I should have had more detail, but I think if you look at the Statue of Liberty and climate change, I believe you can get it if you do that. The other thing I want to share is that I will not be seeking chairmanship of the Environmental Commission beyond December 31st, because I have a particular situation where I'm a care provider, and my duties and responsibilities are going to increase tremendously, and I just don't want that to conflict with doing the job of the chair. And we have, certainly plenty of capable people on the commission. And I don't know what the procedure is. I had asked Ted, and Jessica had commented on something that she knew. And, maybe we can go to executive session at maybe the latter part of the meeting and talk about it a little more, if you would. But
I
that's
motion
my,
that I motion that we go to executive session later in the meeting.
yeah, okay. So that's the end of the chair report. Thank you.
Can we, I'm sorry, can I just interrupt? Can we do that in executive session or is that an open session thing?
I really don't know. I guess the public has a right to know.
Um,
So I'm
Well,
when I came
think
on
that we
board,
could discuss our suggestions and then go back and have to tell the public who we recommend. But I
yeah,
don't know.
I
Arnie, have you
think
ever gone
I
through
would
this
just
before?
double check with Ted
Who is
only because with
Jessica
executive
Rivas?
session, there's like some very particular reasons you can go into executive session. I know it's negotiations for like property personnel reasons, but Ted, what do you think about that?
You could call it personnel.
I would
Okay.
too, yeah.
That works.
okay, all right.
We never went into executive session in the past when we did this, but I mean, I guess if you want to call it personnel, if you want to do it that way, that's up to you guys.
Yeah, okay, all right. Why don't we well, at least
shall we open public?
Yes,
yes, that's the next section. Go ahead and do that. We need a
Okay.
motion.
I move to open to the public.
Get a second.
second,
Okay, it's been moved and second that we open the meeting to the public. All in favor, let's say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, open to the public. Thank you.
We don't have any attendees.
We have a person called Jessica Rivas, but she appears
Yeah,
to be.
she's on the agenda to present or
As a
talk.
panelist, yeah.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Okay.
I thought that there is
Oh,
some change how
Mhm.
WebEx looks now. Okay.
Yeah. No, and what we're gonna do is that we're gonna let her share, what she knows about the environmental committee, for the Franklin Township schools and more. She is the advisor so that she can, leave if she needs to. So we'll make that on.
Okay, cool.
We have
So if
the-
nobody is in public,
Okay.
can I move to close to the public?
Okay, get a second.
Second.
Been moved and second that we close the meeting to the public. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
aye,
All opposed? Okay, we're back in regular session now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Jessica, WebEx, website, email, social media?
So we have an email from Gina Viasis. She had emailed us and we wrote back saying, it was about sustainable Jersey and solar. And we said we were always interested in ways we can learn to help Franklin Township. And so she sent a, more than I think I can properly convey on this meeting. So I think what I'm going to do is forward it to everybody and then maybe we can discuss it at a later meeting just because it's a lot of information and I want to give it the proper time. So
It's
So
not
is it more than a
something that-
page?
there's attachments, there's a chart. So there's a
right.
good amount of information. I just want to give it the proper attention.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
So
Definitely.
it's not something that needs immediate attention then.
No,
All right.
that's it. Unless there's something we think we should be posting on social. Maybe the decision on who the chair decision could be something we post on social, a way to update our town members.
Well, the
Is this-
decision that we make is a recommendation to the mayor, I believe, correct?
Right, but why can't we say what our recommendation is?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
The mayor informed me that he had had an email from Robin Saddam asking whether he or the council appointed the EC chair. The mayor asked me, what is she thinking about? And I said, I didn't know.
Well, the The subcommittee that's been dealing with infrastructure and how we can streamline our efficacy as a commission was trying to understand all the bylaws. And we had thought that we chose our chair. And so we were surprised when we learned that we didn't, that we just recommended it and the mayor ultimately made the final decision and he could take our recommendation or not. So that was, and then we thought we were the only commission that did that. And so we were gonna advocate that why shouldn't we have more autonomy? But it turns out Shade Tree, I think, is also in a similar situation. So that was just our learning process and understanding what all the rules were. And I think Robin she knows the mayor, so she has a relationship there. So
So if I could just comment on that, so going back to the beginning when I was on environmental, when I became chair, it was just we as a group decided who would be chair. So I was chair for 3 years and it was just amongst us. And then when I decided to step down, we voted for Arnold Vernon. There was nothing going to the mayor or anything like that. It was just us internally doing that.
Interesting.
And
Yeah,
when
because the rules say that every year.
let me just say, and when Walter became chair, we've been just doing it internally ourselves all these years. I've never heard of anything until just now or recently that that we make a recommendation to the council or the chair. That had never previously, maybe in the last couple of years, I don't know, but prior to that, we had never. And I'm on Shade Tree. We do it, we discuss it amongst ourselves, we vote, and that's it. We've never referred it to the mayor to make that recommendation.
Interestingly,
I'm not finished, Dan. On open space, we do the same thing. We vote amongst ourselves, and there's nothing sent to the mayor or the council. We decide amongst us. Now, maybe something has changed, but I'm just giving you a little bit of history as to how it's been in the past.
So the bylaws actually go back quite some time. So even if that hasn't been the operating practice, it's actually been the rule that we were supposed to be on an annual basis, putting together a recommendation to the mayor, and then the mayor was supposed to appoint the chair. Now, if that hasn't been the practice and it's been something that's been done by the EC, I don't know, Ted, you would have to advise if that's just cause to change the process. But we went through, we actually looked at.
Let me tell you that over the 3 years that I've been member, there was never discussion about the chair.
Yeah.
And that was kind of confusing.
Well, you're right, Stan, because I think it was at least the last 2 years that it wasn't on the agenda and Walter just continued. But prior to that, it was always on the agenda as this discussion about voting for the chair. So you're right, Stan. I think it was 2 years, maybe it was 3 years that we did not even discuss it here, and we just Walter just continued on.
Yep.
I can share with you that when I received the notice from Anne Marie that if I want to continue to be on the commission, which doesn't seem to have anything to do with chair. I would say yes, but I don't remember her saying, do you want to continue as chairperson? And I would say yes or no. But nevertheless, maybe we were sort of skirting the rules. I don't know.
I'm not saying we have to do it the way of appointment. I think if we have operated in a self-autonomous model where we made the decision ourselves and it was accepted by the town, I don't see why we can't try and continue down that path. I just don't know if we would get pushback, and that's where I would think, Ted, we need your guidance.
What bylaws are you talking about, by the way?
Thinking of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It may be that the mayor asked me, who does the commission want? And I replied, but I don't have any specific memory to that effect. It is specifically in the ordinance setting up the commission that the mayor appoints the chair.
Oh,
That goes back a long ways.
And there is in the resolution that's passed every year at the Township Council for boards and committees, the first appointment of the year. If you look at the one from 2021, it lists Walter, we had some reappointments because terms were expiring, but it specifically lists Walter as chairman for a 1-year term ending December 31st. So the council does recognize that position on the annual, update of boards, committees, and commissions.
yeah.
Well, I'm guessing whoever we decide we want to be chair and pass that on to the mayor, I'm guessing that he's going to go along with whatever it is that we.
I'm pretty sure he will.
Arnie, I just shared the link to the code.
I believe you.
No, I know you said you'd never seen it, so I just
No, I
shared
didn't
it.
say I never saw it. I don't remember if I saw it. I was just asking you what it was. I thought
Well-
maybe, I didn't know if it was a regulation or an ordinance or ANJEC. I just wasn't sure.
No, it's
I asked you about the bylaws.
Environmental Commission, the Township of Franklin, administrative legislation, boards, commissions, and committees. It's I don't know, are they technically bylaws or are they municipal codes? I think they're municipal codes.
I think they are codes.
Yeah,
Yeah, they wouldn't be bylaws.
it was passed in 1978.
Yeah, right, like forever. That's what I mean. Like it's, but I don't know that anybody's ever done it. So does it matter? Then why does it have to stay there? Why can't we change it if nobody's ever
Well,
done it?
it is recognized on the annual, the council's annual appointment. So they've been appointing a chair position. So I'm not, this is my first year with you guys, so I'm not sure how it gets from there, from one place to there, but it is a recognized position on that council agenda. So I'm not sure if we have to keep going that way or.
Is this conversation actually the actual executive session?
No.
It feels like,
I'm not, well, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Discussing
That's you
you, we're
guys.
just discussing how it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm
The
just,
other thing too is we do have Jessica on the line. I know she has to go.
Okay,
at
yeah.
A certain time. Jennifer,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's Jessica.
Jessica. She is Jessica.
All
Yeah,
right.
It's a common name.
6 minutes because I have a Girl Scout thing.
Okay. All right.
Jessica.
So thank you, Jessica. We're going to have the Education Committee report, which sort of dovetails into, bringing you to talk to us, and we're very thankful that you are here today. And so, but Maria, will you just give us the Education Committee report, and then we'll go have Jessica.
Hi, Jessica. It took me a couple of emails back and forth with the parent coordinator, Mary Clark, since September. And finally, she gave me the contact info of the advisor of the environmental club at the high school. And she gave me the reference of the honor society and student government at the middle school. The vice principal emailed me, but we haven't had a chance to talk yet. Because it's during school hours and she's busy and I'm busy. I have to really put it in my calendar to make sure I call it this week. So Jessica shared with me that she's very interested in having the club partner in some project with us. And she talked to the students in the club about the plastic bags, and they're working on shopping bags out of old t-shirts. And she was going to reach the high school fashion club to make them prettier. She mentioned that the student will be willing to create a plastic bags campaign with posters and videos that can be distributed in Franklin community. And that's why she's here, because I wanted all commissioners to meet her, because I know there's interest in the commission to partner with the school, and everybody here has a different area of strength. And let's see what happened. And thank you for coming. And that's my report, Walter.
All right, thank you. So we can talk directly with you. So you have the floor, if you will.
Yeah. So as Maria said, Mary Clark kind of coordinated, I guess, or got us in touch. So the club is working on basically an awareness campaign for the plastic bag ban that's coming in May. And then we are waiting for approval to collect old t-shirts, but our plan is, like she said, to take old t-shirts to make reusable shopping bags with. And then partnering with the fashion club to, like she said, make them prettier. It's pretty much everything she said. We don't really have anything else going on right now. Right now, we're just in the awareness campaign stage. So we're kind of doing a poster contest in our club. But hopefully we'll get some good posters out of that we can then share with the school, or if it's cool with you guys, you can share with the town. And that's kind of the plan.
Right.
Jessica, are you a teacher in the school? What do you do in the school?
Yeah, so I teach biology and AP environmental science, and then I'm the environmental club advisor.
Ah, okay.
I know some years ago, we had a club at least in the high school, and there wasn't an advisor, but it seemed to have sort of disappeared, or we were no longer able to contact them. But is this sort of a new club, or is it just the old club has risen again?
We did have a teacher who left last year, so I know she was advising the club for the past at least 2 years. Carrie Anderson, so I'm not sure if that's who you were dealing with, but I only started at Franklin 2 years ago, so I can't really speak to anything further back in the history. But it's my understanding, at least for the past 3 years, because a lot of my club members are juniors, that the club has been active. I just wasn't the advisor at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Well, go ahead.
Jessica, yeah, thank you. Are you also involved with the Sustainable Jersey for Schools program? Because I know that Franklin is actively pursuing that.
Rod Brundage is, I guess, spearheading that as like the VP in charge of that like committee. So he did touch base with me last week, and we're going to incorporate this project, as well as we're going to be kind of like revamping or bringing back to life our greenhouse. And then in the spring, we have an outdoor garden. So our goal is to grow some vegetables that the students can then sell and eat, and then also grow flowers. So yeah, I am sort of involved. I haven't been to any of the meetings yet. He just got in touch with me to join the committee. So
yeah, the reason I'm asking, because there is a common theme, and I thought maybe you can take some points by doing the plastic bag awareness. I'm not sure.
So he's been working. We touched base last week, and then we're seeing where the club can help with some of that stuff.
Okay, cool. At least that, yeah.
Yeah, we are looking to partner with, or have you partner with us regards certainly this campaign and maybe other projects, and as we go forward. So I don't know who on the commission has sort of been the spearhead, if it's Maria or Robin, but we are interested in talking with you more, and to look at areas where we may partner, especially with the plastics ban, and certainly to be involved or observers of some of the gardening projects and what have you, is something that certainly we want to talk to you about. So what I'm suggesting is that we continue to talk, and maybe have Maria bring back some points of agreement and things that we can do together, and maybe Robin would be involved, and then we can go forward.
She expressed interest also in being, she wants to be part of this. Yeah, I heard.
Okay, all right. All right.
So Jessica, something possibly to bring back to your club. I don't know if would you or the club be interested in having a student from the environmental club have a student appointed by the council to be a student non-voting member. And if you do, of course, we would have to get this approved. You make a proposal to the council.
That's
probably takes an ordinance change.
Yeah, the Township Advisory Board of Health has that. So I'm just asking, saying that this is something that it's a possibility. As Ted said, you might have to have an ordinance change. But I'm just wondering if that might be something you want to bring back to your students and see if there might be an interest in that.
Arnold, so you are suggesting that a student could become some sort of associate member of Environmental Commission?
Honorary member.
They would be, if it's similar to what they have on Township Board of Health, it would be a non-voting member where they could come and, you know, just be in discussions that we have, bring their thoughts to the board. We could, you know, give them thoughts and, you know, hopefully they'd come, you know, twice a month or once a month whenever they would.
Yeah, and I think it would also encourage engagement for the students, you know, because that student could take whatever learning from here and take it somewhere among their peers.
Idea.
Jessica, how do you feel about that? What do you think?
Yeah, they would definitely be interested in that. And honestly, like pretty much any collaboration you could think of, I'm sure they'd be interested in. They're always looking for more projects to do. So fortunately, I really do have to run because my Girl Scout meeting starts.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Yeah, you have a meeting with Girl Scouts, right?
Yeah.
You're very busy.
One last quick question. How many, do you have an idea of how many members there are of the club? Or how does a student become a member?
So right now we have about like 15 members that come regularly, but we had a large interest during our club rush. We just have to do virtual meetings right now. No late buses at the school. So I think because of that, there has been lower enrollment or lower, you know, participation this year. But with more, I would expect more students who are still in kind of like in the club, but they don't necessarily aren't active. I think they'd become more active as more projects happen.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Have a good
Thanks
night.
for coming.
Okay.
You can email me with additional questions.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
So Walter,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we send a proposal to the council that they create a position, however that is, whether it's by changing the ordinance or whatever it is they have to do. That we propose to the council that they create a position of a non-voting member from the high school environmental club.
So can you put that in the form of a motion? And we get a second then.
I thought I just did.
Okay. Get a second?
I can second, but we will have discussion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we've had a motion and we've had a second. So any discussion?
Okay, do we want to have it permanent position or time bound, or how does it work?
Well, it would be a 1-year appointment.
1 year appointment. Okay, fair enough.
1-year appointment. I can amend the motion to say that. I think that's what the council would do anyway. It would be a 1-year appointment.
Okay.
All of our appointments are 1 year at a
And
time anyway.
Yeah, and so,
No, they're not.
so
No, they're
what
not
would
all
be
1 year.
the age range?
It would be somebody that's on the high school environmental club. I don't know if there's an age range for that, but you know, they would.
No, but by saying it's high school, that defines the range.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the range is for people to be in the club, but I believe the way it would work is that the club would nominate somebody amongst them and present them to us, and then we would present that to the council as the person that the club wants to have as their their member.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
high school, not middle school, high school.
No, definitely high school.
Okay, and it has to be within the borders of Franklin.
From our Franklin.
But it can be also private, right?
No, it's from this club that we're talking about is our Franklin High School.
Yes, but we have also Rutgers Prep.
Well, if you want to make a motion to have somebody, if there is a Rutgers Prep environmental club,
well,
if you want to make a separate motion for that,
well,
that's
it's
fine
not
with me.
separate.
Let me finish. I'm just saying, we just had a member from the environmental club from the Franklin High School. They've engaged with us. I'm making a motion for somebody from the Franklin High School environmental club for a 1-year term.
Okay, so I would.
They would present to us. We would present to the council.
Okay.
If the council is okay with that.
Okay.
Now, so that's the motion. if
And
after we either vote against this or for it or however you want to do it, if you want to make a motion for somebody else, for Rutgers Prep or for one of the other.
I understand what I'm trying to say. Can I start speaking now, please?
Yes, Stan. I'm
Okay, thank you, thank you. What I'm not saying that we would have something separate. What I'm trying to say, if we are talking about Franklin High School, maybe we can talk about high schools in Franklin.
That's not my motion. That's not my motion, Stan.
I know, but we have a discussion.
And I'm not changing my motion. Okay, go ahead.
Because what I think would be better to have it broad and say, hey, if you have someone, if you have a environmental, how they call it, club, right? You can propose. You don't have an environmental club? Okay. You have, okay, then you are eligible. That's what I'm trying to say, because we want to be more inclusive. And if we have environmental club in one school, Franklin High School, and there is another high school, which is not public, but they should be included as an option. I'm not saying that we need separate allotment for this and for that, but they should have the opportunity to participate. If they don't have the club, that's their problem. Does it make sense?
I have no problem with somebody from Rutgers Prep or any of the other private schools having a member also. That wasn't my motion though, so I'm just going by my motion. I would say if we engage with Rutgers Prep or one of the other, the charter school, high schools or something like that, if we engage in conversation with them and find out that they have an environmental club also, I'm fine. But my question to you, do you want to have one of these members from, if there's 4 different high schools and there's 4 different clubs from these high schools, do you want a member from each of those clubs to be included?
It will be more competitive. Those who have the best club and best representative, they will be selected. Or if we have one candidate, we'll pick one candidate.
And who decides that? We decide that?
Of course.
Okay. One reflection is that I remember in Maria's report, the written one, Jessica, who just left, referred to, she's the advisor to the Franklin Public Schools. She specifically said public. Is that right, Maria?
Yes, she's a high school public school biology teacher.
That's what she's employed by.
Yeah. So that clarifies it a bit, and so that means that the discussion that you just had, means that there's a clear separation between the public schools and the private schools, so to speak. So I don't know where that
is. The only one.
So that means that we have to reach out to other private schools?
It means that we need to make it public that we have that position. And if they have someone, they can nominate. If they don't, they don't.
Okay.
And then the charter schools.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't catch that, Ted. What'd you say?
And then there are the charter schools. As you're getting up to
charter
level.
Yeah, I mentioned charter schools also, yeah. But my motion is just because Jessica was here representing the public schools, and she said that yes, they'd be interested possibly interested in this. So since she was here representing the public school system and the high school club in particular, that's why I made that motion the way I did. Again, who knows how that would work out. I would suggest that if we make contact with somebody from one of the private schools, whether it's charter or Rutgers Prep or whatever, and we have discussions with them and they show the same interest, we could possibly do it with them also.
And that's where we want to get. We want to create interest. So we don't want to deliver to one specific organization. We are for the environment. So if we engage more institutions and one will get it, the other will say, hey, there is stuff that we can do, that we can try maybe next time for the next year. Hey, next year could be different school. Why not?
Well, somebody could move an amendment to Arnie's motion. The question.
Okay, I move to amend Arnie's motion that we will have this position for any high school, be it private or public, within Franklin.
Well, I don't know if it's legit. I don't know if somebody else is allowed to amend my motion. I believe I'm only allowed to amend my motion.
We don't need to have.
But I don't. But you know what? If that's what floats your boat, I don't have a problem with that.
We are just waiting for someone to say second. Otherwise, it doesn't exist.
Well,
I'll second it for discussion.
Yeah, it was already seconded. That's why we had a discussion.
What I say is,
You have to have two votes. You have to vote on the amendment, and then if the amendment passes, then you vote on the Arnold's as amended. So that's where we are. Okay. So the amendment would expand it to all private schools in the township.
Yes.
I'd put it
I
in
think
the
about it
township
that-
secondary school.
The thing about it, the private schools, the students come from everywhere, and they are not residents, or their parents are not resident of the township. Is there a conflict there?
I believe there is. That's a very good point, Walter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people from Rutgers Prep or the charter schools, they could be coming from way outside of Franklin Township, and I think that's a very good point.
So we specify township resident.
oh, that makes it a township.
Mm.
Put in
All right,
the
Ted, I will re-amend my motion to add what Stan had wanted to do, and I will re-amend that to say the person that is going to be appointed, that's going to come to us for an appointment, has to be a Franklin Township resident.
Okay, fair enough. I
Yep,
second that.
That's good.
Mm. Wow. Okay, so
Harry, you got all that?
okay,
I'm
so
like, yeah.
and will you restate your amendment, with the friendly suggestion that that you just got, that it be a Franklin Township resident?
Are you
Yeah.
asking me, Walter?
No, I'm asking Stan. We
Well-
want to vote on the amendment. If the amendment passes, then we will vote on your motion to include that. That's what
Okay,
it says.
okay.
No, what Walter, he can't change my motion. Only I can.
No. He can propose an amendment, and if he gets a second and we vote yes, then I guess we would say
Well, then
doesn't automatically. Then we
is
would have to
added
vote
to the
on
original motion.
the original motion
The
with
other
the
is,
amendment.
if Art proposes an amendment to his own motion with permission of the seconder, that is incorporated into his original motion, it doesn't
Okay.
require a vote.
All right.
And I thought that's what I did with what Stan said, and now I'm re-amending it so that it's for Franklin Township residents only. So it can be from any high school environmental club in a high school in Franklin Township, whether it be public, private, whatever it is, but they have to be a Franklin Township resident.
Okay, second.
We got him, Stan's original motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
I think Stan just seconded
I
it.
think Paul said for
Yes.
discussion.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, all in favor of Stan's amendment to include other high school environmental, with the proviso that the individual who represents that club be a Franklin Township resident. All say aye.
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 Anybody says nay or no? All right. So that means now the original motion has changed to include other high schools with the proviso that the individual who represents those clubs be a Franklin Township resident.
Other high schools in Franklin Township.
Okay. So all in favor of the motion as amended, let's say aye.
Aye. Aye.
We need to do twice?
Yeah, I think we already did.
Okay.
We already proved it.
Okay. All right. So do we have any abstains or no's? All right, good. We got through that. My goodness. The fact that we say the person must be an individual who's a Franklin Township resident representing the club, but the club itself, may not be made up of Franklin Township residents, but I guess we are willing to have them at the table if that's okay with everybody. Yeah?
No,
Okay.
the one person who would be with us has to be the Franklin Township resident.
Yeah.
Whether they have many other members of the group and not everyone is from Franklin, that would
Yeah.
be.
Okay. Well, that's very democratic. So, let's, and what I'd like to do is sort of give this back to the environmental committee and have them, education committee, I'm sorry, and have them send to us with recommendations of how we move forward. And knowing that, with this particular amendment, to be discussed and dealt with as they move forward. Is that okay with everybody?
Well, Walter, I think for us to move forward, I think for us to move forward, the first thing that needs to be done is present this to the council to see if they are amenable.
Oh, you're right.
Because if they say no to this, then there's no sense in moving forward with the high schools. So we have to present it to the council and ask them if they, again, I don't know, Ted mentioned maybe they have to change the ordinance or whatever. So see what their thoughts are on it, and if they approve it, then we can move forward with the high schools.
Who will bring it to the attention of council?
I can write a memo if you want. So what I do for open space and the other committees that I work on is
Okay,
I'll write a
cool.
memo from the environmental commission with the information. I'll share it first, and if it's okay, then we can send it that way to council.
Okay, cool.
Perfect, Tara.
Okay, I'll do that then. I'll send it out before the next meeting.
Okay, excellent. Okay. All right. If we,
Sorry, because you can't introduce a new ordinance at the last council meeting of the year, so.
Right.
So it'll be as council, the first.
Be in January.
Council meeting.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda on the new business, is that the Cosmopolitan?
Yes, I guess we have to go back to that, right?
Yes. Yeah, we brought that forward from the last meeting. To continue the discussion.
All right. Yeah, I know some of you shared some of your comments via email, the rest of the group, but certainly, Arnold, do you want to lead the discussion?
Sure. So I have a few different comments, and I don't know how many of you read the email that I sent earlier today.
Yeah, I did.
So,
Right.
Oh, I didn't have time to read it.
well, I'm going to read what I wrote for the people here that didn't read it, but also for the public, so it's on record. But it's on our Environmental Commission Green Development Checklist. Our comment for Kmart says, and I quote, "Look at previous use of parking lot for oil changes and automotive use." It's not exactly what I said, but it's encapsulated. That's a very, it says something. So I'm requesting that it be changed to the following, and I'm going to read it. So my statement, or what I think should be sent to the zoning board and the applicant, is this. For many years, Kmart had an automotive center on site with 6 service bays where they performed services including the following: changing motor vehicle oil, cooling system fluids, radiator fluids, transmission fluids, brake fluids, and more, all hazardous materials. The use of hazardous solvents for flushing systems and cleaning tools is also routinely used in facilities such as this. Some of these materials are invariably discharged to floor drains, floor cracks, sinks, and pervious surfaces. There is no mention in the applicant's environmental impact statement about this or of on-site monitoring wells to determine the extent, if any, of soil or groundwater contamination. The applicant should have records of how and where the used hazardous materials were disposed. Extensive contamination could lead to vapor intrusion, which would be harmful to residents living on and above this site. The applicant should investigate these concerns to determine the extent, if any, of these issues and include all findings in amended environmental impact statement upon full completion of their contractor's investigation. So that's the statement. That's what I would like to see us say in there. And I believe this should be one of the primary comments and recommendations that we make, that we forward to the zoning board and the applicant, as this isn't only an environmental concern, but it could be a potential public health issue, especially if residential units are built on the site. So the statement that I just said, that I just read, I would like to make a motion to use that use that precise wording to replace what we currently have on the form.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that Arnold's statement regarding the hazardous waste from Kmart's operation replace the statement that we already have submitted.
We have not submitted a statement yet.
Okay, so we would replace it with that before we send it forward. So is that,
Which means that we have not completed the conversation, right?
I'd like to make a comment also.
additions? Yeah, but that's the hazardous waste one. I believe that captures it most. If anybody has anything additional, well, maybe there could be a subpart.
So,
Well, I have a statement also.
Okay.
Walter. I called the DEP this afternoon for information on 970 Eastern Avenue. And there was evidently an oil tank there originally, and it was terminated in the year 2000. And knowing that I had pulled oil tanks in the 80s, to terminate a license, you have to do the sampling. So that would be available from an Oprah listing. But the listing that I did find was that they did terminate the oil tank. So that says to me somebody did some testing first. Otherwise, the state would not have terminated the license.
Paul, was that above ground tank or a below ground tank?
I believe, I think it was an underground tank.
Because I remember going there years ago, and I believe they had an above ground tank. I've been to the site. I don't remember seeing any vents for an above ground tank. But I stand by what I said, because the tank that they had there, what they used that for was for when they had fluids, when they removed fluids from a car, whether it's radiator oil or whatever, it got dumped into that tank. And then somebody came and took it out of the tank and took it for disposal. But what I'm talking about is spills on the floor to drains and things like that.
Right.
So, I'm just saying that we need to make this recommendation to the zoning board. What they do with that recommendation, that's up to them. But I think it's up to us to make that recommendation to the zoning board.
I think it's an excellent recommendation, and Paul, thanks for doing that research. So does that mean that tank is still on site?
No,
Mm.
I'm
When they
sure not.
terminate it, they remove it.
The license was terminated.
So
So
the tank is taken away.
that's normally what you do, yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay, let's go back to
Stan had something that he wanted to say also.
okay.
No,
Go ahead.
well, what I wanted to suggest that since this relates to a comment of site plan, that we should discuss it within the part of our meeting where we discuss plans.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing right now. We're discussing.
that's what it is.
That's where we are.
Well, it just
It's an
happened.
extension of last week's.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So I just made a motion. I think Stan seconded it. So we need to just vote on it to see if we want to do that.
Okay. So
And you
any more discussion?
Well, I want to add one other thing. Last time, in the last meeting, we had said that they needed to put in electric car chargers. And
Paul, I'm only talking about this one issue right now. I have several other things to talk about at this site. You know, we can go to electric vehicles also. I made a motion specifically for this. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I just want to finalize this one issue.
right, okay.
Okay.
Question.
I'm sorry.
Somebody should call a question.
Okay. Call the question, somebody. Okay. Well, the motion before us is to use Arnold's language regarding the potential hazardous material on the site as a result of Kmart operations. Is that a second? So all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Yeah.
Okay. Any noes? Any abstention? Okay. So the motion is carried.
So could I just go through the other things that I have and then I'll be done with what I have?
Okay, we're still talking about the same site. I mean, the
Same site, yeah.
Cosmopolitan, right?
Right. So a second issue is the applicant commendably reduced the site's impervious surface coverage from 78.8% to 73.4%. And I think what better time to require the applicant to adhere to the zoning's actual requirement of 70%. So I think we should make in our comments that they should come down to 70%. This would allow for additional stormwater management and include more room for vegetation planting.
Okay. Paul, is that what has already been said? Or is that new language?
No, we just said the stormwater management plan may be acceptable based on the regulation. And the impervious coverage, we just mentioned that there's because what I did write, which we talked about, is that the newly passed state regulations may require more pervious areas. So that would go along with Arnold's comment. We could just add a sentence after that. Effort should be made to get to 70%.
Well, I think we should just say straight out that they should abide by what it says for this zone, which is 70%, not make an effort, do it. And again, I think it's incumbent on us to push that. What the zoning board does, that's another story, but it's our job to see that, to at least make the recommendation that they abide by what our rules in this town say.
And I think we can make also reference to Township's resolution to increase, what was the resolution to increase
Pervious,
more?
yeah,
Not
pervious coverage.
to increase the number of green, the trees and stuff.
The trees were good. They had a lot more trees than they're taking out.
Yes. Okay, that would be highlighted then.
All
Okay,
right,
fine.
so I don't know what we're blending two issues here, but the one about the, this meeting the 70% goal is, Is that a matter of just sort of amending the language that Paul already has, or sort of replacing it with what Arnold just articulated?
I don't think I have to make a motion or anything. I'm just
No.
trying to get.
I
I
can-
know
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I don't.
Just add it into the comments.
I don't think so either. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
So I have a couple of more. On page 2 of our form, under where it says positive/negative criteria. What we have written there, it sounds like an endorsement for this project. It's actually under the description. It says on page 1, it says description of project. But it sounds like the way it's written, it sounds like since it's our report, it could be that we're endorsing it. And I just think it has a place on our form to have it being said that how this is going to be a wonderful site for this place, and it's giving all this glowing information about this. I think all it needs to say is what's at the end, or in one area where it talks about, I gotta find the place here. The applicant's proposal, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The applicant proposes green space and reduction in impervious surface on the existing, it says the applicant proposes green space and reduction in impervious coverage on the existing site. But I believe it should be amended to include something like the following. And again, this is duplicating what I just said. The applicant's proposal still falls short of the required 70% impervious surface. So that's really a duplication. But I think everything else that's in that description of project, where it just, I don't understand why we have all of that on our form.
I can answer you if you.
Yeah. I think I'm reading the. Oh, I'm
hard
sorry.
time to hear that.
I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. It's on page 2 where it says positive, negative criteria, where it says the existing building has been vacant for many years and continues to be an eyesore. Development of the site will improvement compared to the vacant site and will bring more tax rateable to the township. Residents living on site will be drawn to the shopping center, making it more viable over time. That's
That's what the statement is that the applicant made.
That's their, yeah. And so that has nothing to do with environmental. This should be an environmental statement. And that looks like where it says positive/negative criteria. That sounds like that we are saying that it's going to make it more viable over time. This should only be about comments about the environment or public health. It shouldn't be talking about tax ratables. I understand this is something that the applicant wrote, but I don't believe, my personal opinion, I don't believe that belongs on our report for them to see, for the public to see. I don't want people thinking that we think, and maybe some people do, but it's still not for us to say that it will bring in more tax ratables or that it's going to make it more viable over time. That's not our place to say that on an environmental conference.
I think.
I didn't realize that was in there. Is that in there already? I mean, as something coming from the Environmental Commission?
No, that's on page 2, and I assume that Tara put that in there because
I did, yeah.
she got it from the applicant's, their application. But
Okay.
I just don't think that belongs in there. It's part of their application, yes, but we don't need to talk about tax ratables, and we don't need to talk about how this is going to make this site more viable. That has nothing to do with environmental concerns. So I think that the only thing that needs to be in there is the very last sentence that says the applicant proposes green space and a reduction in impervious coverage on the existing site. That's the last sentence of that.
So the reason that I put it in there, just to clarify, so yes, that did come from the application. The positive, negative criteria is that's just the term for what has to be addressed when a zoning application is being sought. There has to be the positive criteria and the negative criteria addressed. So I just put that in there so that you guys would have a reference to, why what variance they're seeking and how they're justifying it. So, just so you kind of see the whole picture, the review checklist is really meant to be like a whole picture for you guys, so you know what variance is, what the zoning is. This way you can make an accurate decision. But yeah, it's not a judgment, it's just from the application.
But
Well,
the comment,
it's just internal to the commission. It isn't transmitted to the zoning board, is it?
No, this is just for it's like a worksheet almost for our review to kind of formulate the comments. And it's just really so you have all the information in front of you at once, but there's no requirement that has to be in there or not be in there, but that's just the reason that it's there.
So I thought that this form that we're using, we're not submitting this form to the
No.
zoning board?
No,
No, it's
I write up a comment that I sent to Christine Woodbury.
yeah, it's really for like a working,
Yeah.
it's like a working document for you guys to be, and like the comments, like they're notes basically, so that we can formulate the comments as a group all together. But I thought, this way you have all the info to go on. But again, like there's nothing that says this has to be on it and this doesn't. So
It's a guideline.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's for all projects that come to us, not just this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so I thought that this document was, as it is, when we complete it, was what we would be sending to the
Oh, no,
to
no,
Christine
no.
Woodbury.
No, I do a write-up, more bullet points than that. I don't go into the details. I wouldn't have put that in anyway. Just, I wrote the applications for major site plan to demolish and so forth, and put so many apartments. That was my whole comment. That would be what might be in the checklist. I didn't go into pluses and minuses. So I'll
And
do this during the week.
just to reiterate, just so you guys know, so positive and negative criteria, and I'm sure for some of you guys, this is probably just like repeat, but when doing a zoning application, the planner has to submit information about, you have to satisfy positive and negative criteria. The positive criteria is just how does it meet, or how does varying from the zoning, how will it satisfy certain criteria under variance law, or how will it not have a negative impact? And the negative criteria is how do they address any potential negative impacts that could come from deviating from the variance. So that's just the term. It doesn't mean like positive's good and negative's bad. It's really like it's a technical term, and that's just what they call it.
All right, well, I'm glad that you clarified that, because I think most of what other comments I had come under the statement that I made regarding the automotive center. But I'll just make a couple of quick other comments. On page 3, it's a section that says evidence of contamination, and that was left blank. But I was going to see the comments about the automotive center, but it's already in there. And then just below that on page 3, it says environmental impact statement. Well, that's been done. Page 4, nothing there. Page 5. Let's see, I just got another minute's worth of stuff here. I'm just about done, I think. On the very last page, on page 10, it says consistency with master plan. And Ted, you please correct me if I'm wrong, but we have consistency with master plan, and it says consistency with municipal master plan, and it's left blank. And I think, and Ted, I don't know how this all works, but I think it should be no, because they're trying to go from retail to residential, but maybe it stays retail and they just get a variance. I'm not sure how that works.
I think you could say, in terms of what box you're checking on the form, that it's not consistent
Mhm.
with the master plan,
Yeah.
since it's not consistent with the zoning.
That's why it needs the variance.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm sorry to say, I put the X in the wrong spot. I put it in air, light, and noise pollution. And then you see my note next to it says use variance as well as other C and D variances.
Oh, yeah.
It should
Yes.
be one down.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
yep, I
suspect
see that.
it's the wrong box there.
Yep, sorry about that. I'm getting, my eyes are getting bad. Okay, I fixed it.
All right, thanks, Tara. I didn't see
Yep.
that. I'm glad Ted picked up on that.
Sorry
My
about
last
that.
comment is, I guess, sort of irrelevant. I was going to say that the comments that we made on the very last page, I think should be at the very front of our report so that people don't have to read through a 10-page report before they get to our recommendations and comments. But we're not sending them this report.
Right.
So we're just sending them our recommendations and comments. So great. That's great. Thank you for giving me the time, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
All right, very good. All right,
There are no other plans to review. The only other new plan is somebody wants to put a garage next to their house, and it's a triangular lot, and that's the only place they could put it. Other than that, there's nothing else on the agendas that we haven't looked at before.
I thought, Paul, you were going to say something about the electric vehicles on the Kmart site.
Oh, well, yeah, when we went through the detail of their assessment, they did talk about how many charges they were gonna put in. And I think their calculations seem to be in line with the state.
Cool, good.
I thought you said that the strict application of the ordinance would require 19 chargers.
What did they talk about in the, I
How
said
many
19,
parking
yeah.
spots?
Yeah, I had 19 written down.
Yeah, I
How-
think we made a note that they're under what they really
Yeah.
should be.
How many parking spots they're generating?
So
Yeah.
we have here the 15% that would be required to be make ready would be
Yes.
58.05, so 59. And a third of those would be required to be, I'm sorry, I'm reading like to myself here. So they're required to have 58.
That's
That
why
is
I've got
the target.
19, 19, and 19. It's
Right.
58.
Yep, 19, 19, and 19, but
19
they don't
and-
meet that requirement. They don't have 58 proposed.
So they have to change it, right?
They would have to come up to that requirement. Yeah, the 15.
Yes.
Yeah, I wrote, if the regulation, assuming the regulation applies, they will need 19 now,
And
19
it does.
in each of the next succeeding years. That was
And
a
it
statement
does
I was gonna
apply,
make.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I also recall the day after our last meeting, Bill Bowman wrote in the article where he used, I don't know where he got it. Probably it was much higher number, and I think it
Yeah.
was calculated from the total number of parking spots on the site. And I think that
That's
was
the question,
misleading.
is how many of the sites belong to the building and how much belongs
Yes.
to the adjoining stores? And I'm not
Right,
sure
right.
that's spelled out.
Wherever is the site that is in subject. So we cannot add the parking spot for Stop and Shop or
No.
for whatever other businesses.
Yeah.
But that's, Tara, correct me if I'm wrong, the 58, 59 is pretty much 15% of what is related to this project, right?
Yes, that's what would be required. Yep, based on the amount of
Okay.
parking spaces. Yes, it would be,
Yeah.
and Paul's right, the 19, over when you split it into thirds, it's 19, 19, 19, so total of 58.
Yeah. Maybe 90, 90, 20, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, one off, a third of the space.
Mm-hmm.
okay. All right. Anything else? I think we've pretty much looked at this very thoroughly, probably more than most.
Okay, so now since we have all these comments, are we going to submit it, or we need to move that we
No,
agree on
No,
that?
we just write it up. It's like our minutes,
Okay,
basically.
because
And-
from some reason we've moved on certain component of comments, and we are not
Yeah.
moving on everything else.
We'll cover everything on this one.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Arnold, you sent us an email with your comments, I remember? You
He did.
did that already.
Yes, I sent it
Okay.
to everybody.
And Tara, I'll work with you when I get the phrasing going.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. What's next on the agenda? We go back to the,
Now we would be at number 8C, the New Jersey EV Ready Technical Assistance Workshop.
okay.
So I can talk about the next two kind of together, if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, that's fine.
So a while back, I think it was Councilman Chase had sent around an email to, I think it was, he had sent it to me a while back, basically saying that Sustainable Jersey was working on this Sustainable States Challenge, and that it might be good for us to look into it and join it. So this was months ago. So the town ended up joining it, and basically what's become of it is the Sustainable Jersey has gotten a grant with, I'm sorry, I just want to get this up here so I can get it to you exactly correct. Give me 1 second. Okay. So Sustainable Jersey is working with the Great Plains Institute. They got a big grant that they're kind of using for technical assistance for towns that are enrolled. It's us, Hillsborough, Franklin. Those are the three big ones. I think Bedminster might be in. It's a handful of towns. And what they're looking at is to see what resources do towns need to be EV ready. So it's EV ready communities. And one of the parts of it is in October, they had an introductory workshop, which was kind of just like, let's see what's going on and what, explain about the grant and what resources do you all need from us, meaning Sustainable Jersey. They talked about the 5 principles of EV ready. You know what? Let me share my screen with you because this will be easier if you can kind of see what I'm going through also. Let's see. Okay. So the 5 principles of EV ready communities, according to this grant, which is now under the Sustainable States Network, is what the official name is now. It's policy, so adopting policies that support electrification, regulation, administration, which that's important because that's really looking at your documents and your master plan and making sure that we have the administrative capability to make our town EV ready. Programs, which is public programs that overcome barriers for EV use, and leadership, which is basically showing how the town itself demonstrates EV viability in public fleets. So I'm just going to skip through this kind of quickly because this was just the introductory presentation. They asked each town to kind of go through some basic, and I can send this around so you all have it too. This was like from there. So okay. So what they did was they asked every town to kind of answer some questions. And from those answers, they put together, it's called a self-assessment. And it was based on these metrics, which are, looking at, what kind of benchmarks do we have in place? Do we have EV charging stations in place? If so, where are they? Do we have regulations? So that's kind of discussed this. Do we work with utilities? Do we engage with them about EV charging issues and interconnection processes? They talked about education and incentives, like what do we have? What do we want to do in terms of educating the public about electrification and EV charging stations moving forward? And public sector leadership, which was how does the town itself work within these parameters? So do we have EV vehicles? When one of our vehicles needs to be replaced, do we look at EV as an option? Is it a requirement? Oh, I'm sorry, and there's more. Shared mobility. So do we have a car sharing program? Do we have the electric scooters or buses? So they looked at that. So that was the first presentation. After we went through all this as a group, because it's kind of like a group discussion, they put together this self-assessment. And then what came from that is, and this is what we just talked about, is, let me enable this and then I can share it with you all. Basically, the group at Sustainable Jersey and Great Plains that are working together came up with priorities for each town. And the suggested priorities for Franklin, I just wanted to update you on. Now, keep in mind, there's nothing, no project happening from this. When this is all over and they do further assessment, we might be able to get some technical resources out of it or potential partnerships with maybe like our neighboring towns from it. But this is a very early on kind of talking thing right now. But the main priorities they found for Franklin were under the education and incentives category. And then the secondary priority was the utility engagement. And this chart they put together really shows, you know, from easiest to more difficult, what some priorities would be for Franklin to make it an EV ready town. So that's where we're at with that project right now. The group is going to meet again, I believe, in January, and it's really run by staff from the Great Plains Institute. One really good thing that they showed me that I learned a lot about is that Sustainable Jersey has put together a data bank, and I went and looked at it, and there is a lot of data on there. I even downloaded some because I did not know it was there. Will it not let me look at anything else while I'm sharing this? Okay, sorry, I got to stop sharing so I can find it. But Sustainable Jersey has information on heat island effect. They have data on. They have data on electric usage. They have a lot of information, benchmarking information that I had no idea was there on the Sustainable Jersey website.
Was
So
it presented by Tracy Woods?
yes. Yep.
Okay.
Presented by Tracy Woods. And so it's really just like kind of getting up and running right now. And Franklin is, like I said, one of like the 5 or 6 municipalities that are involved. So the other thing I took out of it is that since Montgomery and Hillsborough are involved, maybe like if we move forward on an EV project in the future, maybe we might want to consider working with them on some type of project, because their biggest concern also was, you know, having the charging station network so that people actually feel comfortable driving their EV cars long distances. So just, you know, like I said, early on right now, but still, I think valuable, you know. Real quick, this is the Sustainable Jersey Municipal Data Bank that I found. And like we were talking about heat islands, they have an interactive map here. They have utility data by municipality. They have clean energy program, local government projects by year. So this is a good source of information for us to also have.
Yeah, I know Tracy very well because she's member of Central Jersey Electric Auto Association, and we are working very closely. And DEP has also grants supporting installation of charging stations at public locations, and they provide 2,000 for level 2, and that's only for the unit, and they offer I think 5,000 for the trenching, and they offer 50% for DC fast charging station up to 75,000 or something like that. So this is very generous. In my book, what we need to promote is mostly making sure that everybody who can fog a mirror can charge car at night as they sleep. And speaking of fast charging stations, this is related to long distance driving. So I think was mentioned before, the only place in our location, in our town, would be 287 exit 10, but at exit, I think it's 13 target, they have Electrify America 6 high quality, high speed charging stations. It will be difficult. Yeah. Year ago, we were looking in one of the plans was the Quick Check, and we suggested them to have a charging station. It didn't happen, unfortunately. So yeah.
Yeah. So right now, so just so you know, so this is, like I said, this is early on. We're still like kind of just, it's like really at the point where we're just talking. But I think a lot of good resources are going to come out of it that we can use for the future.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and also speaking of being example and leader as a municipality, so we have 10 electric vehicles, and they are using networked charging station. They can be easily the data can be easily pulled and we can demonstrate how we are being modeled. Yes, Ted?
Well, an issue that it was originally suggested to me by John Luce, we have all of these townhouse and condo developments that do not have garages. Now, people are supposed to park on the street, therefore they have no access to charge there. But the boards are reluctant to shoulder the expense of installing charging stations. And therefore, I try to suggest, I put it in letters to Congress even, that there be some subsidy to homeowners associations to install charging stations at common parking spaces
Yes,
in
yes.
such developments.
Yeah.
Another,
And there are lots of underprivileged people, right, in those, and they would benefit from driving electric, and they can't because they cannot install the charging station. So this is perfect fit.
John Luce has personally paid for installation of a charging station at his assigned parking space.
Yeah, I would.
Another point, we just got a notice from the BPU that they have money for, well, they call it tourist sites to install charging stations, but it includes in particular hotels. So I suggested to Vince Dominack that we pass this on to all the hotels in the township, that they could get grants to install charging stations.
Yeah, unfortunately, the deadline was today at 5 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
But one more thing I
Tourist
wanted to
time.
mention. I swallowed it.
Well, we can come back to it. Yeah.
Ted, you bring up a very interesting point about how do people in big cities, New York City, they have thousands and thousands of people that park on the street. They don't have a parking garage. They don't have a parking lot. They just park their car on the street and feed a meter or whatever it is that they do. How do those people charge their vehicles?
Believe me, they're working on it.
I hope so.
You ride the
Yeah.
subway.
But okay, well, yes, of course. But now I recall what I wanted to say. I would like someone to study whether, you know, we have utility poles, okay, and every utility pole has on top power line. Would it be possible to put the wires down along the side of the utility pole and have charging station attached to utility pole, given the fact that that utility pole is very close to street or to any other parking spot, so that you can have actually one vehicle in front of the utility pole and one behind, and so that you can have actually two charging spots. And the biggest saving is the trenching, right? Because you don't have to trench. You just put the line from top. Separate question, who pays for it, how it is built, that's another thing. But every charging station has that problem. But what we would be saving is the trenching. The question is, who owns the utility pole?
The
Right?
public PSE&G owns the utility.
Right,
poles.
right. And would they allow it? What do we have to do to get them on board, right? And does it mean that they would own it, or that they would rent it, or whatever? But it's opportunity for them because they would be selling electricity. They can also participate in the talks how to develop the pricing, because they can say, hey, if people charge at night, we have completely different rate, right? So
Good point, Stan.
and they have these things in England. It's called Ubitricity. I found a very nice video report years ago, and I think here is also Flaw. I think it's a Canadian company that are working on things like that. And I'm not planner, but I'm just the EV advocate. And this is something that it would be great to see, because it's the low-hanging fruit of charging stations. You don't have to do the trenching.
Right. Okay. And of course, you know, the trend today, well, I don't know about the big cities, but is to have everything underground. But maybe trenching
We
is
have
necessary.
lots of wires over you know above ground, so that's
In the adult communities here, all the wires are underground. Not coming into this development, but in the development, all the power stuff's underground.
yeah. I have seen a location of charging station where they did trenching, but they purposefully use only the section of parking lot that was close to the electrical hub. They could put the charging stations elsewhere, closer to the building, but actually the building has its own wiring, which has already maxed up. So what they had to do, they had to dig out, open where the wire is feeding the building, and make short trenching to the section of parking lot, which was, I think, 30 feet, 30 feet or something like that. And the building by itself is like 50 yards or 100 yards from that spot, right? So you would not be able to make charging stations near the building and have the same load capacity. So this is another kind of way of looking into it, that the charging stations location has to be where is the high capacity, high volt, not voltage, but where is the power line. So if it's underground, right, that's what is not visible. If it's above ground, then the utility pole is the visual that tells you, hey, you know, you can put it here. But if it's underground, then you need to know where the wires are and make the smart decision to minimize trenching, because trenching is what is the biggest cost.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, obviously, on our EV and electrical charge station journey, we have a lot more discussion to go forward, but I'm glad we're having this now, and we can have more going forward. Is there anything else on this before we move on to the next topic? Okay. I'm trying to remember exactly. Tara, what's next there?
So the next thing is the community. I just want to share this with you. So the other thing that I want to talk about, and it goes over here, is the Community Energy Grant Program. So there was a webinar on this program that is coming out from the New Jersey Clean Energy Program, BPU. And basically what it is funding is going to be made available to develop community energy plans. And you can see on your screen, this is the
This is the aggregation plan, right? Energy aggregation.
Basically it's called now Community Energy Plan. That's
okay.
But yeah,
So I
no,
made
it's just,
coincidentally, okay, fine.
Yep.
And you had it on agenda before I sent the email
yeah,
today, right?
yep.
Oh, I am stupid, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay.
But yes, I actually coincidentally had a conversation with Christine Symington from Princeton. And
Okay.
so they will be seeking to have more purchasing power with Essex County. And
wow.
so I think if we can also participate, it will give us more bargaining power. Can you comment on that? Does it make sense?
Well, so you know what? So now I'm wondering if we are talking about potentially two different things. This plan here is really looking at reducing the energy usage, lowering greenhouse gases as a community. It doesn't it does look at aggregation as like an idea, but it's not a plan that's talking about specifically joining us, you know, potential aggregation program. So that might be different.
I see.
Right. This is kind of like putting together a plan that looks at, it's almost like a master planning element, but for community energy. So how are we making sure that the energy is distributed equitably? Where are our transmission lines and power plants and things like that? grants will be made available to overburdened municipalities up to 25,000. So I looked at BPU's list of overburdened municipalities, and Franklin is considered one. So we would, if we want
Really?
to move forward with this, we would be eligible.
Is
to
it
apply.
our Franklin?
It's our Franklin. I double checked
Okay.
it. Yeah. No, I know because there's so many. So there is a definition of overburdened community, which I looked at. Again, it's the 25,000. They would help us to kind of put together the plan and look, help us kind of move it along. The application process is a little, it's a kind of a bigger application process. There's a big checklist that you have to put with it. There's a narrative. There's some documents we have to do. It's not due until, I believe we have until May. So we have time to really look at it and see. But the initial grant is 10,000. But like I said, if we wanted to go for the $25,000 grant to do a larger report, we would be eligible because we're an overburdened community. But
So what is this money used for? Because I mean, 10,000 is not that much.
it's not. So this is used for, I'm sorry, I want to share with you my notes, but it won't let me do it for some
Probably
reason
to
today.
hire a consultant.
It's either hire a consultant, or to write it yourself. But yeah, basically to hire a consultant who's in on it. I want to share my screenshots I took during the webinar just because I wanted people to share this correctly. So from the webinar, I just took some screenshots. So it basically says, what is it, which we kind of already went over. It looks at like renewable energy, not only in terms of what's there, but what's our zoning like, what's our permitting process, what are we doing for energy and outreach, and then here's the energy aggregation portion of it. This is who it would have to include, obviously, mostly the same people for a master plan, which is, your key stakeholders, any groups that are involved in energy efficiency. What else? There's Crystal right there. She was the one given the webinar from BPU.
Yeah.
She talked about really what's involved with the plan. So as you can see, the action and the goal is to get 100% clean energy by 2050, which is a tight goal. But
It's a
any
state goal.
municipality, yeah.
If the state makes it, we make it.
Yep. Any municipality can get the 10,000, but again, overburdens can get the 25,000. It's for energy planning. So yeah, so it's for hiring a consultant, coming up with this plan and really looking at what we have and what are some opportunities for aggregation or for EV charging. And now keep in mind, this plan can also be coupled with, there's money coming from the infrastructure bill once it's gone through it, U.S. Department of Transportation. It'll then get iterated down to New Jersey. So it'll go through the New Jersey Transportation Planning Authority and Department of Energy for us to get money through infrastructure bill. So money will be available for the actual infrastructure once that comes through. What else? The technical assistance, as she says here, is in the creation of the plan once the grant is awarded. There's a total of 48 overburdened municipalities. And again, here we go. Once the funds are received, this is what we would have to complete. So we would have to use the strategies in there to conduct an in-depth analysis of the energy master plan based strategies. We would then have to conduct a public meeting. We'd have to finalize the plan through adoption of the municipal governing body. So it has to be adopted as an element of the master plan. And there are reporting requirements. So for the smaller grant, it's one report at the end. For the $25,000 grant, it's a quarterly report during the 18-month time. You have 18 months to complete it. There's also sustainable Jersey points that are allocated if you get this. I think it can be up to a total of 20 points once you get the whole thing done. It explains to you, there's a work plan template. We have to provide a financial report to BPU. There's a final plan, and then there's the adoption. All of that gets submitted. And then they gave some resources, about guides that are available through Sustainable Jersey. Exactly. This guide basically explains to you how to apply for the application. Here's the checklist. So they gave us all of that information. And in the data center, Sustainable Jersey has information we need to get it going. So they have the utility energy data by municipality. They have our community profile, and apparently they're putting more data on there specific to this grant. What else can I tell you? Oh, and this was just a note for myself about the heat island. So the grant application is due March 18th, and it's an 18-month grant term if we get it. So we do have some time to apply for it, and we don't have to decide right at this meeting. But the reason I share it with you is because I'm interested in knowing, is anyone interested in maybe applying for this grant? If so, I mean, we have to get approval from the municipal governing body to submit the grant application. It's going to take some time to write it. So if we can start thinking about it and maybe at the next meeting make a decision if we want to apply for it, then we can start, piecing it together.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'd want to get buy-in from the manager
Mm-hmm.
and at least the mayor at an early point.
Yes, absolutely.
The council normally approves any request to apply for a grant, you figure free money for whatever purpose. But it sounds like there's an awful lot of paperwork involved, and is it worth it?
Right. I agree with you. Yep.
Community that really needs this.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And I think I also say, yes, if the committee's interested, then I can definitely run it by the township manager and see what his thoughts are. The one really good thing I think about having a plan like this is that when the money from the infrastructure bill comes through, we may move to the front of the line. If we have this, we might have a better chance of getting a lot of money through the infrastructure bill if we have something like this.
Tara, I have a question.
Oh, sure. Yep.
How long is the application? 9 pages like the EPA, or is longer than that?
It's probably about 10 to 12 pages, I think, altogether.
The logic model, it needs
Yep.
all of-
Budget, checklist,
From
narrative.
evaluation? Okay.
But chances are, Tara, you would be probably doing the paperwork here, right?
Yes, I would do the paperwork. I would need help, probably in some areas, but I would share it with all of you. And it probably would be a 2-meeting kind of thing where I'd have to show you probably a portion of it and then the other portion. But the important thing is a requirement of any sustainable Jersey grant is a resolution signed by the municipal governing body. So we would have to have that resolution on the last meeting of February agenda at the absolute latest to make sure we get it approved in time to send it with the application.
If you got to brief the council, you may need to get a meeting before that time,
Right.
so they understand what they're voting on.
Yeah. So I know it's a lot. I just sent like a kind of threw your way. I can send out the information I have on it. I was going to write up my notes about it in a more clear form. So if you want, I can send all that out and we can discuss it more at the next meeting. Because it's not a rush or anything right this second.
Just as a blurb, so as we are seeking the support from township manager and the mayor, can we also kind of suggest about the energy aggregation that we stay in touch with Princeton at least about possibly joining the bargaining?
Yeah, I can definitely bring it up to them for sure. Yep, definitely. If you have information that you can send me on it, Stan, or even just like a little brief thing about what your what it involved, then I can just, discuss it.
I can briefly, I know that don't have too much time, but I wanted to mention the email from Christine Symington.
Okay.
Which
yeah, you can send it to me too if that's easier, and then I can like put it together.
Sustainable Princeton will be working with the town to decide when to go out to bid again for another term. The timing depends on the electricity supply markets. The town might consider joining the Sustainable Essex Alliance. We don't need a community energy planning grant to do this and might apply to it for other initiatives we want to pursue, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, I'll forward it to you.
All right, perfect. Yeah, that would be great. So I'll send out the information, and like I said, if you all kind of want to digest it and think about it, and we can discuss it at the next meeting. I mean, after you review it, you might think it's not worth applying for it, or you might really enjoy, thinking it might be a good idea. So I can forward all that for your review.
Why don't you do that?
Okay. Yeah.
If it puts us at the head of the line for other grants, it's got some positives to it.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
But we have to think of needs.
yep. You're right.
What
We
could
do have
we
to think
get
of that,
that
absolutely.
we don't have and
Mhm.
need? Otherwise, it's not worth applying.
Right. Yep, you're right.
Um, now next, thank you, Tara. Um, I guess, one thing I've been hearing is that the township, probably could, get more grants that it has, but somehow, there aren't the horses to put it together, or is it, we make the decision, is it worth it, so I don't know where we are, but I have money coming to the township, I think we can use it. Want to make sure that we're not spending a lot of energy, for something that they're not going to use. Okay,
Right. Yep.
that's it. Okay, what's next under business? Was it the adopted
Is
green program?
next is, oh, so on here we had the preparation for our January
Oh
17th
yeah. Mhm.
visioning meeting. So I know, it's getting kind of late now, but I would say the next meeting, we talked about our meeting in January, we were going to discuss, projects and things, excuse me, that we want to work on for the upcoming year. So if anyone has any, what I think I would like to recommend is if anyone has any specific projects that they would like to work on, if you maybe want to send it to me and I can compile everything in one document. And then when we have our meeting, we can go through it and kind of say, yes, we want to do this. No, we don't. If that works for everyone.
Yeah, I guess we've done this in the past, but we've never called it the visioning, but maybe this makes sense. So everybody begin to think about and share, the type of things that they want to, and then maybe we'll find that, some of us are talking about the same thing and some of us are not, but nevertheless, we've sat down and thought about, what we want to achieve and, in concert with our mission and et cetera, as we go forward. So I think it's a good thing. So I would, whatever.
Can I ask, you say January 17th, is this in addition to the scheduled January 24th meeting, or did we mean the January 24th meeting? Remember, we changed
Yeah,
calendar to meet on the 24th rather than the 17th or the 10th.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it's 20, you're right. 20, it's supposed to be 24th, 24th. Okay, I changed it on the agenda, so I'll make sure that I have that right. I still have it on my regular calendar as the 17th, so I got to move that.
What is our first meeting in January?
I think it's the 24th.
The 4th of January or the 24th?
24th.
Oh, there's just one meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, I changed it. And like I said, if you guys come up with ideas, I'll compile them into a document and I'll put down what we're working on as
okay.
well. This way we have everything in one spot.
Mhm. And Tara, once we get that calendar, I don't know if you sent anything to Anne Maria, but once you get it all together, I guess that's just one change. Share it with us again so we can save it on in our folders and have it for reference.
Okay, will do.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Next is, yes, so on old business, we have, I can just talk real quick, the heat island effect. I
Yeah.
don't have any update on that. I did not get a chance to do much on getting the data about vulnerable populations this month, but I will work on that moving forward. And now I found that data center, so I'll be able to look at that. The adopted drain program, we're still, still working on, still want to move it forward, but the attorneys are reviewing the documents and we have to get them signed to enter the program. So we are still moving forward on that, just getting the paperwork end of it done.
Okay.
The next item under that is the Environmental Stewardship Awards.
Which we did.
Let me just share that, it was done virtually and it went very well. Paul did have a chance to take a picture with the center school. executive director, is
Yes, he's the executive director.
yeah, and we shared that with everybody, but with Diane, there wasn't a possibility. So
No,
it
she
went
was at the
well.
doctor's office and she asked me to just drop it off on the porch, which I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. And, so let's begin to think about, 2022. I believe, I'm all for getting the environmental commission's name and visibility and whatever out there. And this is one way to do it. And if we have people doing good things environmentally in the community, I would want us to be the first to recognize it. So I haven't seen, a case where we have 2 or 3 or 4, and we have to choose the top one out of it. But nevertheless, maybe we'll get to that point. So
Yep.
I said, well done. Thanks a lot, Paul. And
Well,
yeah, let's think about 2022. All right. Is that where we are now?
That's it for old business.
And I just, Tara, did you have, what is the status for contacting, what is it, this county reporting that the property near the stream near Imperia has the pollution? I think we agreed last time that we will report them to the county.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I could not remember for 100% sure if you wanted me to send that report or not. So I did not, and that was on my list to just be 100% sure that you
Yeah,
want me to report
because
that. Okay.
if we cannot clean by ourselves, we want to do something. And
Okay.
if
So I'm
reporting
going
them
to
is,
report. I'm going to
yeah,
report. Okay. So I just wanted to be like, sure about that before I went. Okay. So I'm going to do that then tomorrow.
So Tara, are you reporting it to the county or do you report it to our municipal officials who they report it to the county? How does?
I report it to our zoning officer and she will then report it to the county. That's the process. So,
Right.
yep.
So she might go and see whether she thinks it's a problem.
She could do that as well. Yep. Okay, so I just wrote that down to go ahead and do that for sure. So yes, I will take care of that tomorrow.
thank you.
All right. And are there other items that on old business that we?
I think that's it.
yep, I think so.
We get an executive session, right?
Yes.
All right.
I really only have 10 more minutes because it's almost 9. So if we could just be quick about it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
We got a motion for the executive session.
I motion for an executive session.
Second.
Second.
We moved and second that we move into executive session. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Oh,
Bye.
Any
Yes.
opposed? Okay, let's go to executive session. What does
Need to
that mean?
turn off the recording.
okay, but hang on one sec. Before I turn off the recording, I just want to make it clear that after I turn this recording off, we're not going to be taking any official action or motions. And there's no members of the public here, but I have to make that statement. We're not going to
Okay.
be taking any official actions or motions after this, except to close the meeting. Okay, thank you. Okay, recording off.